Good morning, everyone. I am really tired. Today is going to be interesting, but I'm going to show you everything I eat, and we have a really cool topic we're talking about today, which is how to dry herbs and spices from your garden so you can save them all year. So let's go. Hi. Good morning. You're so cute. I love you. Good boy. First things first, I want to make tea, and my little teapot is out of water, so I'm going to fill that up. This is the tea I'm going to be making. It's cacao tea, and it's just roasted cacao shells, so there's no actual chocolate in it, and it is just delicious. It's kind of like a coffee replacement, honestly. It's a little bitter, and it's not sweet. There's no sugar, no caffeine, and I've just really been enjoying this, so I'm gonna have some of this morning. Of course, I will link to this below because this giant 1 pound bag was a really good price, and I know you guys are gonna wanna know what cacao tea this is, so I'll link to it below. This is what it looks like, just roasted cacao shells. And I put about 1 tablespoon. Sorry, that's a teaspoon. Duh. I put 1 teaspoon. I'm just so tired today. Maybe 2. That looks pretty good. Here we go. I'm making a big batch of my favorite ultimate green breakfast smoothie. I'll link to that recipe up above. I'm going to add some water and blend this up. It's got Swiss chard from my garden. Hey y'all, now I'm having a bowl of these dark sweet cherries. They're organic and ripe, and I'm so excited for it to be cherry season. It's probably my favorite fruit. I could eat these every day. Okay, I just had my cherries and they were so good. I'm kind of afraid that like my hands and my mouth for the rest of the video are gonna be dyed red, but they were so delicious and it was nice to take a break from work and eat them outside. I have a little bit of a break right now, so I want to get to the topic of the day, which is how can you dry your herbs and spices to preserve them for the season. So there's a few different ways that you can do this, and one of them is behind me right now. My favorite way is to lay out my herbs on my table and let them dry on a cloth, and I'll show you that in a minute, but you can also hang them to dry. So here I have some cilantro that I let go to flower, and then I waited till the seeds came up. The seeds will start out green, and then as they dry, they will turn darker and darker in color. And once they're completely dry, they should be dark brown, and then you can save them. So here are some that are almost done and some that are still turning. Hopefully you guys can see that. So as you guys know, cilantro is also called coriander, and the seeds are coriander seeds. So it's a really, really delicious spice that I'll be able to enjoy and harvest once this is fully dry. And the way that I did that was I just pulled the whole plant and I hung it here on my fruit rack just by using a rubber band from produce that I bought. So a lot of times I get celery or other produce where it's attached by a rubber band, and I can't really avoid that in the store, so I try to reuse it. So here I've just wrapped it around twice and then stuck it on the end of this, and it'll just hang here next to my bananas and get nice and dry. I have some other small ones that weren't really worth hanging up. They're almost, the seeds on this are almost completely dry, so I just kind of hung them over the edge of the fruit rack, which I know it's not the most beautiful solution, but it works. If you guys were watching my Instagram a few days ago, you will see that I had been drying some parsley and some shiso on my table, and I had the entire table covered. I have like a 12-person table. I had half of that table covered with leaves drying. Once I finished and they were totally dry and crunchy, you should be able to crumble them in your fingers, no problem, and it should be really crunchy. Then you can go ahead and grind them in your Vitamix and make powdered herbs, and this is what happens. So that huge foot by 2 foot section is like one whole jar. So it comes down to a really small amount, and these 2 jars of parsley are going to last me pretty much until next year. And the best part is I didn't kill the plant by doing this. I just harvested the tops. So I have still been eating a ton of fresh parsley. And all of the fresh shiso that I had shown you guys ended up in this jar. And shiso is super delicious. A lot of you were asking, what is shiso? It's a very, very popular Japanese herb. It's also called perilla leaf. It's used in Japanese and Korean cooking. And I can't describe the flavor to you because it's so unique, but it's super delicious. It might be my favorite herb. So I'll take you out to the garden right now and show you what it looks like before you dry it and turn it into this delicious herb for sprinkling. And all kinds of vegetables and herbs you can save the seeds for. You can save mustard green seeds for mustard seeds, coriander seeds. You can save all kinds of stuff. And you can also save seeds from your favorites so you can grow them again the next year and dry them out the same way. But I'm going to take you to the garden right now and show you some other things that I dry and preserve. Here is one of my absolute favorites, and that is raspberries. I love to save the small raspberry leaves and dry them for tea, and I'm going to do a whole nother video on that coming up soon, and all the benefits of raspberry leaf tea. Okay, here it is. I have 2 really big, beautiful shiso plants, and here is what shiso looks like. It's a very interesting leaf shape. As you can see, it's got these little spikes on the side, and it's got a really interesting texture, but it's very soft, and it's soft on the underside as well, and it is absolutely deliciously fragrant. I just can't explain how good this is. It's technically in the mint family, but it doesn't taste anything like mint. So what's awesome about this plant is you can eat it fresh on salads, in wraps, or you can pick these whole leaves. And in Japan, they like to wrap rice balls in the leaves, and it's super, super delicious. Better than wrapping rice and lettuce, in my opinion. So if you've been using lettuce wraps, you could also try shiso leaves for shiso wraps. And the coolest thing is, if you grow this, they volunteer. Here's a baby one. This volunteered itself this year. So these like to reseed themselves. You really only have to buy seeds once, and you probably can't get these in the store. They would be very expensive. If I buy these at the Japanese market that's about an hour from me, I will get 3 or 4 leaves for a few dollars. I can grow this whole huge plant and keep harvesting from it over and over, and it will reseed itself at the end of the year, and it's just for pennies. So it's really worth it if you want to try growing this. It's super easy to grow. I had harvested that huge amount that fit all over my table, and you can still see I have plenty of shiso left for fresh eating. And while I'm out here, of course, I'm gonna pick some veggies. So I just picked my first pepper of the season. I'll grab some of these delicious looking tomatoes. That one didn't come off as easy with one hand. And yeah, everything is looking really beautiful out here. I have yellow and red tomatoes coming in right now. Full garden tour is coming up really soon. I'm working on it, guys. So stay subscribed. Okay, so here is my bed of parsley. I had cut it almost all the way down to the ground when I did that harvest that made that 2 jars of dried parsley flakes. And you can see it's come up nice and big again. It's almost going to bolt. So it's time for me to harvest some more and eat it fresh and dry it. So I'll show you guys what that process is like, but pretty much you cut off the tops and you keep the leafy parts, you wash them real good and lay them on your table until they're dry. It depends on the leaf. Sometimes it takes a day, like lemon verbena is very fast. It only takes about a day to be fully dry, and others might take up to a week. Here is another favorite. This is lemon verbena. As I mentioned, this dries really fast, and I drink this all year long for tea. When we go back inside, I'll show you my last harvest of this. I'm gonna let this one grow a bit bigger. And then right there, I have some thyme. That's another one that's really easy to harvest and dry and use all year long. Over here, I have some fresh dill and some fresh basil. I will probably eat all of this fresh and not dry any of it, but that's always an option as well. In this bed, I also have more dill. As I mentioned, I'll probably end up eating all this dill fresh, but you could also lay it out to dry. And I have a beautiful bed of this wild peppermint. This is so good. I love this mint. And I like to drink it in teas. You can actually just use it fresh in tea right now. And I will also dry some at the end of the year and save it. But I love to put fresh mint in salad and spring rolls, so I'm gonna eat most of this fresh, and if I need to at the end of the year, I will dry some as well. And last, but definitely not least, is my lemon balm bed. So lemon balm is one of the most beneficial, delicious herbs. It's anti-anxiety, it's got good stuff in there, and it calms and relaxes. So I will let this get bigger, and then I will dry this all for tea, most likely. So that is a quick tour of some of the herbs and spices that I dry and keep and store when my garden is over and I harvest all summer long and also into the fall. And you want to make sure on the perennials that your last harvest is a good month before frost, so you don't harvest too much and kill off the plants. And let me know if you guys want a whole separate video on the teas that I like to make and store, because I make a lot of them from scratch. I will have a whole video on raspberry leaf tea because that's my favorite, but quite a few of these herbs can also make amazing herbal teas that you can grow and save yourself. Okay, we're back at the parsley, and I am going to pick some of these parsley leaves just to show you guys how I dry them and preserve them so that you can see the whole process. All right, so I grabbed all of this parsley. I am going to cut all of the leaves off of the stems and wash them. Right, that made a huge bowl, and I just filled up my salad spinner, so I'm going to rinse it in this and then spin it dry. Once this is mostly dry, I'm going to take a nice large cotton cloth and I'm going to just spread this out on my table. And I'm going to lay out all the leaves to dry, and I'm going to leave them here until they're good and crunchy. So let me spread this out and then show you what that looks like. Okay, so that amount of parsley only covered about half of this cloth. So I'm guessing once it's dry, it's only going to be about half of a mason jar of parsley flakes. So that's kind of how I estimate things because I've done this a few years in a row and I know how much I can get for one of these big cloths. So yeah, that's how you start. And once these are dry and when you squish them, they are crunchy and they break apart, then you know they're dry enough. And I will show you some of the final product so you know what it turns into. So I already showed you guys this, but as you know, once you dry the parsley and grind it up, this is what you get. You get these delicious parsley flakes. I wanted to show you how crunchy it should be when you know it's ready. So this is my lemon verbena, which I keep for tea, and I just dried this one, and I leave it whole leaf for tea, so it's a bit easier to see how dry these are, right? You can hear how crunchy. And they just break apart like that. That's when you know it's ready. If at all it's still squishy or doesn't break apart when it's touched, it is not dry enough. And of course you could use your dehydrator for this, but I prefer the good old-fashioned way that doesn't waste any energy and it happens just fine on its own. So there you go. And I'll try to do another video about the teas that I make and save, but that is just a quick way that you can save some herbs and spices and preserve the harvest that you're getting from your garden every year. I hope you guys found that helpful and it inspires you to grow even just some herbs in your kitchen. And if you have extra, you can hang them to dry like the cilantro or lay them on a cloth to dry and save them for the rest of the year. Let me know if you have questions about this below and leave a comment with if you've tried this or not and which method you prefer. All right, it is dinner time. I am making some spring rolls. I'm going to use these spring roll wrappers. And you just run them under some warm water and then fold in your veggies, which is pretty easy to do. And I have all of these veggies. I have cucumber from my garden, and then I have some purple cabbage, some red bell pepper. I've got some basil and fresh mint. You guys saw where I grow my basil and my mint today, so I just went out and picked some real fast for this. And I have some lettuce from my garden and mango. And this is what's going in there. All right, I don't know if you can see that, but I quickly wet it in a little warm water. It only takes about 10 seconds to get soft. You don't want it too soft. You want to kind of move quickly here. We'll see if I can do this and share it with you guys without it getting too soft. But I just like to stack some of my veggies in the middle and make it colorful so that it's going to look really delicious and pretty. And I just line them up. You don't want to overfill it. That's always my tendency, is to put way too much. But yeah, I'm just gonna put all these veggies in here and then I'll show you how I roll it up in a little bit. Okay, so first I'm gonna fold it over and then I'm gonna tuck in the sides and then I will flip up the bottom and this will be all done. So there you go, that's how easy. I call them my rainbow rolls because I put so many colors in here, and this one is ready. I will make as many more as my filling will allow and show you the final product. All right, my rainbow spring rolls are all done. I ran out of filling near the end, so we each have one that's kind of shrimpy. I like to serve at least 5 rolls per person. Probably I could eat more of these, but I ran out of ingredients and I get tired of wrapping them kind of fast. So this is what we're having for dinner. I'm gonna make a little dipping sauce. So I just whipped up a quick dipping sauce. All it is tahini, my gochujang, and coconut aminos. You could also use sriracha if you don't have gochujang. And then I add water to thin it out so it's perfect for dipping.